think up to 50% of working class jobs could be wiped out because of AI and robotics.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been a prediction from the leaders of some of the biggest companies in AI. I heard the leader of Anthropic recently say the same thing, that he thinks 50% of jobs could be wiped out. I think the shocking thing that we've talked a lot about on the show is just, there's been other sort of economic or industrial revolutions in the past that have caused for job displacement.
Yeah.
But none, I would argue, at this speed.
No, and none that can replace virtually everything. I see. There's a classic story I read back when I was talking about the global financial crisis, came out of the New York Times article where they went to interview workers in an air conditioning factory. And there was one woman they found there whose job it was to place a thermocouple inside the air conditioning units as they went past. So there's 3,000 of these going past her a day. She's just placing one of these thermocouples where it needs to go inside the circuitry of the air conditioning unit. And she said, you don't have to love your job as long as it pays you money. It was a totally boring job. That's all she's doing. The thing is, the reason she got that job was she couldn't make a machine to replace her because the air conditioning units don't necessarily end up precisely at the same point. To make a machine that would do that is really difficult. Now, if you train a robot on it, the robot perception can ultimately get to the point where the robot can place that piece inside there. That particular unskilled job disappears. So people who work in jobs like that no longer have a possibility of getting a job.
I think even, Anthropic released a report. Anthropic are the makers of Claude. They released a report saying that entry-level positions, they're seeing a 13% decline already in people getting those entry-level jobs. And actually, as an employer, someone that spends literally all last night, I was looking through our recruitment inboxes at candidates and talent. I have noticed myself changing. I've noticed that people that I would have given roles to maybe 6 months ago, I now have to think long and hard about whether there's going to be technology that can do those exact roles instead. And it was a really shocking thing. I was saying to the team last night at like 1 a.m. in the office, I was like, this is a prime example of a candidate. I was looking at this particular candidate that 6 months ago, I would have bitten their hand off. But now I have to pause because my innovation team in the corner of the office, they're able to do that now with these AI agents instead. And so I am, you hear a lot about the theoretical impact of AI.
But you're actually making the decision yourself.
And then it's theory. It's this thing on my Twitter feed, like blah, 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 whatever. You hear it on a podcast, you go blah, 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 whatever. And then you find yourself actually
behaving that way.
Your behavior is changing and you're going, oh, it's very hard to know the types of people to hire into our company. And I've kind of almost segmented them into these two groups where you've got people that have very deep expertise. I'd say it's three groups. People that have very, very deep expertise on a particular thing, like my CFO. Group number two, I'd say, are people that are AI proficient.
Who can actually handle this stuff and be the people who manage the agents.
Yes, and they can redesign our workflows across every department in the company to be agentic. The word is about AI agents, that's kind of like the word used. So agentic workflows. And then the third group of people are people who have skills that are highly beneficial human to human and in real life. So like human to human salespeople that deal with relationships.
And are very good at it.
And are very good at it because there are still a certain type of sale where people want to meet the person, shake their hand and say, okay, you're responsible for this deal. We're still in a situation where people don't want agents to do that. Those are like the three groups. What I didn't say is young people who have just come out of university, maybe don't know anything about agents. They don't have the deep expertise yet. And when you look at the data, we'll throw some of the data up on the screen. It appears that these sort of entry-level white-collar jobs are the ones that are right now suffering. Some of these investment companies would hire like 300 or 400 analysts to look at companies and make decisions. That is one example of a role that's very at risk now. We've got an investment fund. We need one analyst, Molly. 6 months ago, we were interviewing more analysts. We now realize that we just need Molly and we need to give Molly AI. And she can set up, I think Molly said to me yesterday when I left the office, when she left the office at midnight, she's now set up 3 agents, these AI agents, as her team. Well, those would have been 3 people.
Well, look, I saw a demo of that. Like I've developed a software package called Ravel, which I've got one programmer for. And I teach an online course as well. And I give Ravel as part of that online course. And one of the members of the course said he's using an AI to build Ravel models. And he's also using an AI to write the code behind Ravel. And he gave a demo of this a couple of days ago. And I watched it happen on screen as he built a model, a simulation system. And he was messy on one stage, but it produced the correct mathematics. So he's showing you can actually, he's trying to tell me that we should get my main programmer to learn to drive agents to do the whole thing. Now, my main programmer has said, look, there's things that I can do that an AI cannot do. He's one of your highly gifted people. And he said it wouldn't be worth my while to have me telling an AI what to do, because what I lose in terms of my own initiative, I just sort of balance out. It's really okay. But he hires a junior programmer. Then the junior programmer would be one who's trained to drive the AI.
I do think programmers are fine. Actually, there were some stats that I saw the other day that showed there's been this huge demand and people trying to hire programmers. It's interesting because you hear stats from Spotify.
Yeah.
Spotify saying, we haven't written a human line of code since December.
Yeah.
And I'm very good friends with the guys at Spotify. I was actually with the CEO the other day, a couple of weeks ago in Austin. And you hear that, and I did check that with them. That's true. So you assume that that means we don't need programmers anymore. But if you think about like Jevons paradox, when something becomes, Jevons paradox is the old analogy.
It's cheaper, you use more of it.
Yeah. So like when coal became cheaper, people were worried that maybe the coal industry was out of business or trains, whatever. But actually what ended up happening is people just drove more trains and they used them for other things like transport.
Yeah.
And the same applies, I think, for AI. When creating technology becomes easier, every company starts using more technology. So media companies, lawyers, you name the company, executive assistants, they all become coders. And actually the demand for really anyone who knows how to code or program, we're seeing it, it's exploding.
Yeah.
But I just think the job disruption in the near term for most people is going to be pretty.
Yeah. I mean, there's ways in which AI and robotics should be welcomed because it means the possibility exists, and it's only a possibility, that we can no longer have to be exploited to get an income. Because if you look at the Marxist attitude towards capitalism as capitalists exploit the workers. Okay? The real world is we've been exploiting energy mutually. Both labor and capital exploits energy. We could have a future where we don't have to work for a living, and therefore you could do what you want to do for a living. That's a Star Trek future. That's the possibility that it promises. But at the same time, it could actually eliminate the jobs that people currently rely upon. And what I fear is we have two possibilities. We have a future where, Star Trek type future, where you have replicators that make the goods we consume and we all live an energy abundant life, or the Hunger Games, where there's one little elite that has all the robots and lives extremely well, and we tolerate and oppress the vast majority, and they end up, Hunger Game entertainment. Those are the two possibilities we face.
I do think the cost of goods and services will come down, which is great.
Yeah.
I think robotics, if Elon is right, and I often say with Elon, like his timelines are not always accurate, but he does tend to deliver magic.
He ultimately delivers, but he always overpromises and delivers later than he plans.
And if he's right about when he says there's going to be more humanoid robots, his Optimus robots, than humans, and he says also in his predictions that there's going to be no need to study to be a surgeon because the robots are going to be so much more advanced and better than any living surgeon, that would imply that surgery and other sort of medical diagnoses and procedures are going to be incredibly cheap, incredibly quick. Great.
How do you pay for them? That's the next question.
Yeah. So, how do you pay for them? And do people want to,
it's also the physical requirements. I mean, the amount of copper inside a robot, you're talking, several kilos per robot. Do we have enough to produce 8 billion of them?
And maybe, surgeons do much more than just operate.
Yeah.
There's a human element to the medical profession, which I think is sometimes unappreciated. Like I don't know if I'm quite ready to go talk to a robot about my health yet. Maybe I'll adjust.